I'm very excited about that. Okay, so Joan of Arc lived in the 1400s. She was born to a poor peasant family. She was just a normal girl in that time period. She tended her father's sheep and helped her mother around the house. She was one of 5 children. And during this time period, there was a lot of attacks from Burgundians, and it was a war-torn state, which was France, before France was united. And there was this myth that there would be this maid of Orleans that would come and save the people. And so as a young girl, she was 12 years old, and she felt like she was spoken to by several saints telling her that she was going to save the French people and lead the army to victory. So, to do that, she believed that Prince Charles had to be crowned king because they were powerless. They were lacking in leadership. So in order for that to be possible, she escaped from her village and went to the court to appeal to Prince Charles to try to take the throne. So she did that, and so what happened is the army rallied together, and they had several victorious battles. They won New Orleans from the English invaders, and the French started to be very successful. But Joan of Arc, she was more of like an icon. At that time, the army was very discouraged, and she was treated almost like a puppet because they wanted to have a figurehead that would encourage everyone to be victorious. So in order of her actually like being like the strong leader, she was more of like, they took advantage of her, basically. And she was very victorious in battle. She was even, she was wounded from an arrow in the midst of battle, and the record says that she pulled it out herself as a young girl. So she obviously had a lot of strength about her. So that's really encouraging to me. But I'm just going over some brief history for those of you that just came in.
Thank you.
She was captured by the Burgundians, and she was sold to the English, and then she was given to the Inquisition. Then the Catholic Church condemned her as a heretic because of how she dressed. She was not dressed as a woman, she was dressed as a soldier, which was not according to the standards of that time. So she was condemned to death, and she was 19 years old. She went on trial for 14 months, and she was convicted at the age of 19. So on May 30th, 1431, she was burned in a marketplace.
How old?
She was 19 years old. So at that time, she was thought of to be a heretic. And 25 years later, she was deemed as innocent by the Pope, Calixtus III, however you say that. And in 1920, the church, she was coronated as a saint. She became a saint. So that, I think that was like 500 years later. She broke the breach for young women to be successful and to show the world that they have a place in society and they can leave a legacy of their own. So anyway, she's been a very inspiring person to me. When I was 14 years old, I wrote this poem that I would like to share with you. And I have copies of it if I want some. I also have a couple movies that I'm advertising. These are really good movies. This one's like 2 hours long, but it's very, child-friendly. There's no gore in it, even though she was, of course, martyred at the stake, but it's a really good movie. So I'm just going to read this poem really quick after I've already gone over the history. Sorry, I'm a little late there. I wrote this when I was 14, so forgive it if it's not perfect. Okay, it's called The Finest of Maids. Arrayed in silence sat the girl with a heart of steel, but a face of innocence. Her eyes turned to the darkened heavens, where came a cascade of light. She felt the light touch her spirit and heart, and she knew it was her destined part, that she would lead a lost nation to win, and create a toil for all weakened men. Arrayed in armor, she guides a steadfast cavalry to firing brigades, where men carry their swords and put their hope in the finest of maids. She touches the place where lies her heart of steel, knowing that light is still very real, while men cast their lives, trying to be brave, giving freely to an empty grave. Arrayed in change, this maid of bravery sits and waits their false stated claims, wondering if all this fighting and dying has all been in agonized vain. She looks from the bars that confront her in the night, trying to feel the light that made her accusers live in terrible fright of powers not in mortal sight. Arrayed in flames, she closes her weary eyes, feeling none of their angry cries. She stares at a cross in a bright beam of celestial light. The clouds fade and turn to dark, and the fire leaves little a flaming spark. A maid leaves behind her forever mark, what a woman is brave Joan of Arc.